Hello everyone and welcome to AGACAD's webinar, BIM Wood Framing Models and Automated CAN and CAM Production Lines. Before I start, I want to make sure that everyone can hear me and see my screen, so please raise your hands. You can do that in the GoToWebinar dialog on the right side of your monitor. And as I can see, you're raising your hands, so I understand that you can hear me and see my screen. Thank you. And if you will have any questions, you can write them down in the GoToWebinar dialog under questions, and in the end of the webinar, I will try to answer them. And now I can introduce myself. My name is Yeva, and I am an architect and a BIM consultant at AGACAD. We are operating since 1988, and we are a professional developer of BIM software and add-ons that are compatible with Autodesk Revit. I also want to say that I'm hosting this webinar on behalf of EEC, who is AGACAD's exclusive reseller in Sweden. He is also an Autodesk Gold partner and provides CAD and BIM solutions specifically for the building industry, with over 25 years as a reseller of Autodesk software. Our mission is building BIM together, which means that we align our clients' needs and develop solutions for continuous BIM acceleration. We have a wildest range of applications for Revit worldwide, and today I'm going to tell you about wood framing tools, Wall Plus and Floor Plus. We also have a tool for the roof, and how to export these frames to the CNC machines production lines. And our promise to clients is reducing BIM stress. We help to eliminate tasks that do not create value. This webinar will be about new possibilities to create BIM wood framing models and data flow for automated CAD and CAM production lines in Revit environment. AGACAD team has created a new application for Autodesk Revit to export multi-layered frames of wooden walls and floors to automated panel production lines. In this webinar, you'll learn how to frame walls and floors in Revit using our powerful solutions for wall and floor framing, predefine different operations and rules to fully automatic high-performance Weinmann Randing Hamburger production lines, and structural designers can make decisions in accordance with this competence on what operations should be performed before production. Wood framing solution can do flexible multi-layer framing of any building configuration. Also, it has automated clash detection and generation of complete shop drawings. Wood Framing Wall Plus automates framing of wood walls in Revit, and also it creates shop drawings, so it's useful for documentation as well. And also the Floor Plus BIM software for wooden floor framing also is a tool for floor, wood framing, and automatic generation of workshop drawings. Software for wooden multi-layered frame export to automated panel production lines. So CNC Exporters for Weinmann, Randing, or Hamburger are separate software created by AGACAD. It exports wooden wall and floor multi-layered frames to automated panel production lines, and this AGACAD software can be adapted for other production lines of timber frame prefabricated house industry too. And now I'd like to show you a live demo on this tool. Yes. So I will turn on a Revit project and talk about Wall Plus right now. So first of all, before starting to work with Wall Plus, we need to pay attention to wall layers. So right here, I have a wall layer that consists of main frame layer, a secondary frame layer, two sheeting layers in the interior side, two nailer layers in the external side. Also, I have a horizontal siding layer and a layer for external decoration. And next, of course, we have to load families and schedules, which will be used for creating the frames for our walls. And I have to check the wall link, because here I need to make a link between our wall type and the framing configuration. So all these layers in my wall type are linked with the framing configuration. So now I will just frame few walls by the configuration that is predefined in the wall link. And now the tool is creating the frames automatically. So it's creating frames for all the selected walls. Yes, so I selected these two walls, and I will also select these two walls, for example, and I will frame them as well. And when the tool will create the frame, we will be able to look at the framing configuration file. Yes, the frames are created, as you can see, so the connections are framed by our configurations, also the openings are framed by our configurations, and so on. So now let's take a look at the framing configuration. So here you are able to create different configurations for frame layer, horizontal nailer, horizontal siding, secondary frame, vertical nailer, vertical siding, and even for the wooden logs. And here you need to create your own configuration name, and then you will be able to use the created configurations for your future projects. So for example, I used this configuration for the walls that I just framed, and here in the common settings you can predefine vertical framing elements and horizontal framing elements. So I predefine the stud for the stud, and I predefine a plate family for the plates. And in the element mark definition, you can predefine the element numbering, and also these parameters will be written into the framing member families and later will be used in the schedules, and all this information can be renamed according to your company standards. And here in the wall framing, you can predefine vertical studs and how they will be distributed, the spacing for the vertical studs, and the amount of top plates, and the amount of bottom plates, and the offsets around the wall. Also, I have different settings for opening framing. So I can create different configurations for non-structural walls and structural walls, and of course for window framing, door framing, opening framing for MEP openings, and even window joint framing and window door joint framing is for elements that are very close to each other. So for example, we can add one header to these elements and so on. So for example, I will take a look at this window opening configuration, and of course once again you can save it by your own name and use it later. And here I can say how many king studs I want to have and what type of king studs I want to add. And here we can predefine a header for our openings, our windows, and here we have created the most popular headers that are used, but actually we created a new functionality not so long ago. And if you cannot find a header that you need right here, we have a function, custom header type, and right here you can create your own custom header. So there are no limitations to that. And the same goes for the top plate support. You can also create your own top plate support or use one of our created most popular top plate supports. And the same goes for the sill plate. You can predefine the type of elements that will be used for the sill plate, and also use our sill plate or create your own. And here you can predefine how many trimmers do you want to have and how they will be added, for example, from the sill to the top plate, from the sill to the header, and so on. And here you can add other studs, so for example top cripples and bottom cripples. And here you can predefine offsets around the opening, and again this configuration can be saved and used for the future projects. And here in the L connection, you can predefine how the walls will be framed in the connections. So the tool identifies the outer L corner and the inner L corner, so you can create different configurations for that. And once again, we have created the most popular connections right here, so you can go ahead and use them. But of course, if you cannot find what you need right here, you can create your own configuration by using the custom join function. And right here you can create everything from scratch. And the same goes for the end connections, the free start and free end, when the wall ends with nothing, and the start and end connections, or when the walls connect to each other. And once again we have the custom join for all the connections. The same goes for the B connection, and the T connection is when the walls are intersecting each other. And we can add a ridge stud or not add it. And in the bridging, nogging and blocking, we can predefine horizontal elements and how they will be distributed. So we can also have different rules for those horizontal elements. So for example, right now I have this type of bridging, and I will array it from the top by this distance, and I will add one element in the internal frame side. And also this element will go throughout all wall, because I can say that it will go only throughout windows and so on. And we also have a secondary stud system, which is not used very often. And we can also add bracing and additional stud. Those will be added later, additional elements. And finally, we have the details. So details are not mandatory, as they can sometimes oversize the project, but of course if you want them, you can add them, or you can add them at the very end of your project. So in this presentation we will see how those details look, and we can also add stud holes. So when we set everything that we want right here, we just save the configuration by our own name, and we are ready to frame other layers. So right now I created the main frame, and now in this wall link I also have a secondary frame, nailers, sidings, and the sheeting. So I will add all these layers right now. So I will select these 4 walls, and I will use function add secondary frame, and now the tool is adding the secondary frame to all these selected walls. Yes, so the frames are almost created. Yes, as you can see, the secondary frame was added to the inner layer of the wall, and now I can create the nailer layers, and I have 2 nailer layers in each wall. So the tool will now frame 8 layers. So I will select add nailers, and now the tool is adding nailers for these 4 walls. And it's creating 8 wall frames. Okay, and when the nailers are added, I can already see that they are added on these 2 walls. I will go ahead and split the sheeting in this wall, and I will also add the siding. Okay, Okay, I can see that it's created. Yes, and now I can split the sheeting. So once again, I have a sheeting configuration right here where I can set the spacing for the sheeting layout, the marker settings, and the offsets around the connections and the openings and so on. And I can save this configuration again by my own name. So I will go ahead, I will select these walls and use function split sheeting parts, and I will be able to see the sheeting only when I turn on the show parts mode, because the sheeting is created as parts in Revit. Yes, so now I can turn on show parts, and here I can see the sheeting was split. I will try to, yes, this is the split sheeting. This is one part of it, and this is another part, and so on. So I will go back to the original view. Okay, and now I will split the sheeting for these walls as well. Okay, and it's splitting the sheeting for these walls, and then all that it's left is the siding layers. And after I create all the layers, I will be able to export the walls to the CNC machine. So, okay, now I will add the siding layers. Yes, the siding layers were added, and I will also add them to these two walls. And Wobless is adding the siding automatically to these walls as well. And then all these elements will be exported to the CNC files. Okay. And now we can export these frames to the CNC machine. And for this, we have created a CNC exporter. So today I will show you a Wayman exporter and Randic one, but we also have Huntiger exporter, and other exporters can be created as well. This exporter has simple and advanced setup, and I will start from overviewing the simple settings, where we can predefine the project information parameters for the name and for the number. We can also apply element identification settings, and in the assembly section mode, we added the possibility to add several walls to one CNC export file. So here we have possibility to select multi-panels and add a clear spacing between the walls. And in the export setting, we can predefine which wall layer we are going to export. So for example, we can export all layers or only mainframe layer, mainframe, and external layers. So now let's take a look at the advanced setup, and here you can predefine element identification settings for the mainframe, secondary frame, vertical nailers, and so on. And in the membrane nailers, in the membrane nailing settings, you can predefine nailing offsets from the edges and nailing spacing, as well as nailing type or device index. And in the sheeting nailing, you can predefine nail distances and spacing for different positions. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure why you can't see the preview here, because you should be able to see a preview. Okay. I'm very sorry, but I'm not sure why you cannot see it right here because you should see a preview where it's very clearly shown. Yes, I think that, yes, you see, now you can see the preview. So again, in the membrane nailer settings, you can predefine nailing offsets from the edges and nailing spacing as well as nailing type. And in the sheeting nailing, you can predefine nail distances and spacings for different position. And in the sheeting trimming, you can predefine which edges should be trimmed and the tilt angles. And here we have a position marking where you can predefine what elements are you going to mark. For example, vertical, horizontal, or both of them. And finally, in the siding trimming, again, you can predefine which edges should be trimmed and the tilt angles. And all these settings can be saved for the future projects. And now we can use function export to the CNC, export wall frame to CNC, and now the WOOP file is being created in the same location where my Revit file is. Yes, so now the file was created and there it is. I will open it with the Wayman viewer. Yes, and here we can check if everything with this wall is okay and fix it. Also, here we can overview information about every element. I can click on any element and see information about the element's size and so on. And now I can push this file into the production line. Every layer of this wall will go to a different part of the machine for different operations. I can overview this element. For example, I can view different layers. As you can see, I can see the sheeting was split. And I can also, for example, see only the main frame. And also it shows me sub-assemblies of these walls, for example, which will be created prior to the whole wall frame. For example, this opening, framing, and maybe some difficult connections can be added to some assembly, and so on. So, okay, now let's take a look at the wall framing. Yes. And the same goes for the floors, actually, because if you know how to use the wall plus, you will know how to use the floor plus. And we have to check the floor length, of course. And here I can see that I have a main frame layer, a flooring layer, and a layer for the battens and different configurations assigned to them. So now I can use frame floor function, and the tool will automatically add the main frame. Yes. The main frame was added, and as you can see right now, I also added the details and the connection holes and so on. Okay, and now I can add other layers. For example, I can add the battens. Yes, the battens were added, and also the flooring. And now I can make shop drawings directly in Revit. So I will go to the shop drawing configuration, and here I can predefine what views am I going to make, because in a minute we will create the floors assembly, so all framing layers will be combined to a single floor panel. And here I can predefine what layers of that floor panel I want to create shop drawings for. So I will create a frame top view, frame and sheeting top view, batten top view, assembly front view, and here in the schedules I can predefine what schedules am I going to make. And here I just need to set a title block that comes from the Revit project, and it will be added to the assembly as well. And of course, this configuration can be saved by our own names, so I will save this, and now I will just use function create frame assembly, and the tool will create the assembly with all these views and schedules that I've predefined. Okay, right here I can see that the assembly was created, and here is the assembly 3D view. Here we have the batten top view, and now we can, for example, use sort structural framing by mark, and all these elements will be marked automatically. Here you can see that the elements were marked, and here in the frame top view the elements are marked as well. Here we have a joist number 2 and the rim joist number 3, and so on. And I also have a material takeoff. I also have the part list and the frame schedule where the framing member mass was calculated. And here is the sheet. So now I can add desired views to the sheet. So for example, I will add this 3D view. I will also add a frame top view and the batten top view, and I will add the assembly part list, or maybe I will add the material takeoff. It's a little smaller right now, and the frame schedule. Yes, so let's say that I've created my sheet. So now I need to go to the shop drawing configuration and say that this will be the template sheet that I want to be created for other floor assemblies automatically. So I will go to sheets, and in the sheet template I will say that this sheet is going to be a template sheet. I will save it, and now I will create a frame for this floor. I will add the main frame. Now I will also add the battens, and I will add the flooring. I have to create the frame assembly. Now for this wall, for this floor, yes, and I will use the sort structural framing by mark because I created the frame after I used this function previously, and now the frame is marked. So again, I have a 3D view, the batten and frame top views, the schedules, and also this time I have the sheet created automatically because I predefined that this is the template. This is the template sheet that I will use for my future assemblies. So this sheet with the views was created automatically. Okay, and again, we can export this information to the CNC. So I will use export floor frame to CNC, and okay, and now we can open the file and see the result. So here you see that the floor frame was exported. Yes, and again, I can overview it. Here we have all information about the joists, connections, holes, and so on. Okay, and now I'd like to show you another project, which is a hotel, and I will demonstrate how you can frame large projects that has identical walls very efficiently. So, in this model, I have a lot of room modules, groups that were created by architects. So I will frame them using multi-framing technology, which was created especially for large projects. It will frame identical walls much faster compared to how the frames would be created for each wall individually. So now I'm going to switch on a different configuration that was created for the project, and as you can see, can have different configurations in different locations and very easily switch on the desired one. So I will switch on this one. And you can also put these configuration settings to a shared location so your colleagues can use it as well. And here I have multi-framing functions. And I will say that it would show me the identical walls in this project. And here the tool is comparing all these walls, and I can see that I have this many identical walls in this project. And after framing one wall, we will be able to distribute the frames to all identical walls in the project. So for example, now I will use function select walls in model group and frame these walls. So now I have 5 interior walls in this group and 1 exterior wall, and these walls are being framed by the created configurations. Yes, the tool is creating the frames, and also I have a main frame and a secondary frame layers in the exterior wall. So now I'm creating only just the main frame for these walls. Yes, and the frame was created, and now I can add the secondary frame to this wall. Yes, the secondary frame was created and automatically aligned to the main frame. And now I can use function copy update frames in identical walls. So I will select this and any frame member from the wall, and now the tool compared all the walls. It found 33 identical walls, and now it's copying the exact same frame to all these identical walls. Yes, and it's creating approximately one frame in 1 or 2 seconds, and that is much faster than framing these walls one by one, because maybe even you would have to make some kind of modification to this wall, add additional element and so on, and then it would take a lot of time to manually add all those elements one by one, but with multi-framing you can just copy identical frames to all walls. Yes, and the frames are almost created. Yes, as you can see, the tool copied these frames to all identical walls in the project. So that was very quick in my opinion. And now I can add, for example, I can add the details to this frame. When the details were added, I can create the frame assembly. But before that, I will go to the shop drawing configuration, and I can set the view templates and the views that will be created. So for example, I will change these view templates. Yes, I will change them to these ones, architectural elevation, that I've created for these views. Okay, and here in the schedules, again, I can see which schedules are we going to make, and in the sheet we can select a title block that comes from the project. I will save it, and of course also I wanted to show you how to add additional element, because I told that you can add some additional elements in specific places. So for example, I can add an additional stud from this element. Okay, and it will be offsetted to the right from the selected stud. And as you can see, the additional element was added. And now I can I can update the details. Yes, and as you can see, the details were updated by our additional element. And now I will create the frame assembly. I will create the frame assembly, and the tool now adds dimensions, create views with framing and connection tags, and generates element schedules. And we can see the assembly created right here. Yes, so we have a 3D view, we have the assembly front view, and we have the frame front view. And I think that I didn't set the structural framing tags. That's right. So I can just do it right now. So as you can see, I forgot to set the structural framing tag, but I can just do it right now in the frame front view. I will set it, for example. Yes. Okay, I will save it. And now I can just update the frame assembly. Yes, and the marks were added, and I will use function sort structural framing by mark. And the framing elements will be automatically sorted. Yes, and here I have the secondary frame and the main frame, I think, elements. So no, I have only the main frame elements, but I also have not added the secondary frame, so that's not a big deal because just now I can see that I want to add a secondary frame as well, and I want that view to be created. Okay, I will add a structural framing tag as well. And once again, I can update the frame assembly, or I can disassemble it and create the assembly again. And all the changes will be applied right now. Yes, and here is the secondary frame and the frame front view. Okay, and now once again, I can create shop drawings automatically, and I can export these frames to the production lines. So I will just create a sheet, for example, from the 3D view, the assembly front view, and the frame front view, and I will also add the assembly part list, the frame schedule, and let's see, that's it. In the shop drawing configuration, I will say that this is my template sheet, and now when I will create frame assembly of a different wall, for example, create the frame assembly for this wall, and the sheet will be created automatically by the template sheet that I've set. Okay, and right here I have once again a 3D view, the frame front view, and so on, and here in the sheet I have all my views created and added to the same locations as in my template sheet. And now I can export these walls to the CNC machine. So for example, I can try to export to the random machine this time.
And again, I will start from the simple settings, and here we have the project information parameters for the name and for the number, the element identifications, the assembly station mode, where we can see that we want to export a few panels in one file, and here in the export settings I will, for example, this time say that I want to export only the mainframe. I will save it, and I will use export wall to CNC. Yes, and now I can find, yes, and this is the wall frame for the Randox CNC machine. And again, here we can control the layers. Here I have the mainframe layer. And also I'd like to show you how we can export few panels. So for example, this time I will use Wayman Exporter again, and in the export setup I will see that I want to export multi-panel, and for example I will enter a clear spacing between those panels. I will save these settings. And now I will use export wall frame to CNC again, but this time I will select these two walls, and now two walls are being exported, and I can find them right in this file. Yes, and as you can see, now two walls have been exported with a clear spacing between them. And for example, I can turn on only the mainframe in the viewer, and I can see the sub-assemblies and so on. Okay, so now I will return to my slides, and I just wanted to say that you can download the free trials for Wall Plus, Floor Plus, and Roof Plus by going to this link. And you will download a Tools for BIM doc from where you will be able to download any trial of our tool. You will just fill in the form and very easily you will get the trial. So thank you for your time during this webinar. I hope that you found out something beneficial. And if you will have any questions, please contact me and I will try to answer them. Goodbye and have a good day.